Hello, and welcome to this Fireside Chat about ServiceChannel's new Provider Pilots tool. And on that note, I better get my fireside in place. Okay, there we go. Today we're checking in with Mike and Edurne. Hey, Mike, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, it's really good to be here, Chris. By the way, I thought we were doing real fireplaces today.
Moving on. Hey, Edurne, welcome to the chat.
Thank you for welcoming me to my own house. I'm very happy to be here. We don't need the fireplace over here, as you can tell. We are very bundled up.
Glad you could make it from afar. So, Provider Pilots is a tool for continuously testing new providers, which is a key component of our framework for a strong provider network. And that's what we'll be discussing today. So, let's start with you, Edurne. What are you hearing from our customers on why they're using Provider Pilots?
Yeah, so it allows companies to test new providers without having to go through all the changes in assignments and putting them in a lot of locations, just to see how good, they are for them in terms of performance and cost. It also allows companies to find out how much can they improve versus the current providers that they have, right? Like in terms of speed, quality, and cost. It also allows companies to adapt to market conditions, market changes, and business changes. Like if they're expanding fast, or if there's a ton more work that they need, or if some of their providers, for example, are busy and they do need to have backups.
That makes sense. Mike, what are the common situations that you're hearing customers say is like a great use case for putting a pilot to use?
Yeah, I mean, Chris, as you know, ServiceChannel offers a lot of tools to help our customers find new providers and see how those providers perform for other customers on our platform. But at the end of the day, you don't necessarily know how a provider is going to perform for you and the unique nuances of your own business. And so the number one use case is to go and actually test that provider, give them a chance to ramp up on what you expect, and then be able to measure like how that performance came through and see, hey, am I saving money if that was my intent, or am I improving speed or quality? Another area is if you have existing providers that you think are ready to take on more work, right? So expanding a provider into new locations. There's a couple of things that can happen in that case. One, that service provider might be ready to take on that challenge of more of your locations. Or two, you might actually overburden that provider and give them too much space, right? So testing the ability for that particular contractor to take on more work is another kind of core area of focus here. Third, you might be growing, right? And in the case where you're expanding, being able to test the provider in a new market and see how they're going to perform in your world is a really effective one. And lastly, if you go back to the framework and you look at kind of the steady state management of your network, you should be constantly trying to figure out who has the right amount of work, who can take on more, and who should be, in a backup spot, but ready to go.
Right. So there's a number of situations, whether the business is expanding or just looking to really up-level the network that they're working with today.
That's right.
So how long does it take to find out in a pilot, what kind of performance you're getting from the provider that you're testing?
Yeah, everyone's a little bit different on our platform, right? And depending on the trade, it can vary, but we recommend a minimum of 10 work orders. I think, when we talk to our customers, we heard a lot of them say 25. I think really until you get that good feeling that that provider is a good fit for you and is performing at the level that you expect, then you could go ahead and say, all right, this is what we're going to do and make the change.
Right. And then how much time does it take to actually set up a pilot and get one going?
What we found when we were conceiving of this product, a lot of our customers are doing this, but it's a lot of work. And so what we strove to do is make it as easy as possible. It should take less than 5 minutes to set up a pilot for a provider across a set of locations for 25 work orders.
So back to you, Edurne. What would you say to an operator who maybe has been working with a steady slate of providers for a number of years about trying out pilots as a way to freshen up the bench that they're working with?
I mean, first is by testing new providers that they can see, how much better a provider could be, right? They could be working with a provider and they have a good relationship, right? But some of them, maybe they're not performing as well, like in terms of their quality or in terms of how fast they resolve things, or they might be a little bit more costly. And by testing new providers, they can see what is doable in that geography and that trade. They can also use that to have a conversation with the existing provider and say, hey, somebody else can actually do this faster, or more cheaply use it for negotiating, or in some cases, like just make a change because that's going to impact their bottom line and the happiness of the stores that they're working. And then the second one is it's always good to have backups, but not just have backups that are stale, that you've never used before. Then when you really have the need and you have to go to a backup, then you're rolling the dice. We do recommend that, you're sending certain volume of work orders to the rest of your providers and making sure that they're able to meet your needs for when you really need them.
Right. That's great advice. It makes sense that you wouldn't want to, think that you have somebody you can rely on, and then when it really counts and you need them, it turns out that they aren't prepared, right? Because you've never actually tested that out.
Yep, exactly.
Great. Well, thanks for all the advice today for our customers. I want to remind everybody that the Provider Pilots feature is available to all of our Service Channel customers at no extra charge. So you can start using it immediately. And if you have any questions about how to be successful with that, please just reach out to our team. Thanks for watching today. And thank you, Edurne and Mike, for your time joining me at your firesides.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Chris. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. To learn more about Provider Pilots, just click the link in the comments below. You got to make sure that my background is like a roaring fire at that point. Yeah.
Isn't there like that famous meme where it's like the cartoon animal? It's like everything is fine, everything's on fire around them.